Hey listener, we're delighted you're joining us today. Today's guest is Soy, a rising creator from Hong Kong. She's the genius behind the comic Staredown, where a seemingly innocuous staredown turns into a fun romance between two high school students. We discussed her foray into comics, including her interesting methods for character design, such as reverse engineering from Myers-Briggs personality types. Having grown her comic on Canvas to nearly 200,000 subscribers and 400 users on Patreon in the year and a half since launching, she also shares some tips and tricks that you can use to grow your comic. We had an awesome time getting to know Soy and hope you enjoy the conversation.
Hey Soy, how are you doing?
Hi, Akil. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for taking some time to join us today. We're very excited to have you. Do you mind starting by just telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I go by Soy online, and I am a comic artist. I do Staredown on Webtoon. Yeah, and I'm from Hong Kong, so most of my comics are set there. So there's some Asian characters and very mixed race. Yeah.
When you were growing up in Hong Kong, what was the comic scene like for you?
It's well, for me, it wasn't very prominent at all. Like, I think amongst my friends, I was one of the only people that read comics when we were younger. And when I started meeting people that read comics, it was mostly Japanese comics. Because here, at least, there's a bunch of stores that sell like Japanese comics in Chinese, but I can't read
Hmm.
them because I can't read Chinese. So for the locals, they read mostly Japanese comics.
And what were some of your favorites growing up?
For Webtoon, Tower of God, actually. Like that was probably one of my first ever webtoons I've ever read. And that was probably what influenced me a lot to want to make a webtoon as well.
So from there, from reading Tower of God, what made you say, okay, I'm gonna take a leap and start to make my own webcomic?
I think it was mostly the world building. Like I was so mesmerized by the world building in Tower of God. I just wanted to make something myself. Um, but it wasn't really like a web comic I wanted to do because I was also very influenced by anime. I think it was just storytelling. I just really, really wanted to tell a story because at that point I never drew.
Hmm.
So comics weren't something I thought I would be able to do.
So when did you start drawing?
I started drawing maybe when I was 11 or 12. No, not
Okay.
even, maybe 13, because I never had access to like traditional art supplies. Like there wasn't that much space to do that. But then one day I borrowed my friend's drawing tablet. So then I could do drawing on my computer. And that was when I thought, oh, I can actually do this.
And what would you draw just to, start to learn? Because drawing, going from no drawing experience to learning to draw, I'm sure is a very difficult task, especially to see compared to, where your art style is today.
I drew the most ugliest characters. They were so ugly. I can't bear to look at my old art. I mostly imitated other people's art. Yeah. And at that
I
point I
see.
thought of like I was really disappointed in myself, to be honest.
In terms of making your comic, you said that you really enjoy the world building. So is that where you usually start the idea of here are the types of things I want to do in my story, and then the characters come after? What's the process like for you?
Oh, so in terms of world building, those are comics that have never seen the light of day yet. I go really too much in depth. Like even with Stare Down, the world building, I have pretty much I know every single character's families, their backgrounds, even though those things would never show up in the comic. I don't know why I do that. Like I think way too far into the comic. So yeah, I think for Stare Down, characters came first and then the world building because I just built it around the characters, like about all the relationships between them. For the other comics that don't exist, I build the world first. Yeah.
And how did you come up with the concept for Stare?
Stare Down literally comes from the title. It's just me thinking of like a cute little romance. The first
Mm.
scene was the first thing I thought of as well. It's just two boys who ended up staring at each other, and one of them got really annoyed by the other, and then that's their relationship. yeah, I just thought it was really cute. Staredown was very impulsive for me. I just thought of it and I was like, oh, I really want to write this, and so I made it.
So you started drawing at 13. At what age did you start creating Staredown?
I think when I was 20.
Okay, wow. So you had 7 years of sort of drawing experience. Did you feel like you were ready, or were you like, I just want to make a comic? I'm not going to think about it too much.
Actually, the 7 years of drawing experience doesn't really count because I didn't draw consistently in those 7 years. Like that drawing
I
tablet
see.
that I borrowed was gone within like 1 year. Yeah, I wasn't very consistent with drawing. I think I only started drawing consistently when I graduated high school, so at 17.
Do you have any advice for people who are looking to get better? What do you think helped you the most?
Oh, what helps me the most? I guess I'm so over analytic. Like if you see, I don't have art before like on my Instagram. I don't have art before like 2017, I think. I'm not sure. But I never posted anything. Like I was way too self-conscious about it. I guess too judgmental about myself. So any flaws that I saw, I would like instantly think, oh, I need to fix that. I think that's kind of why I improved. Although I would not recommend it to other people. Maybe get some outside advice instead.
Uh, and so going from that, you spent some time getting better at your art. Obviously, when you from the beginning of creating Stare Down till now, you've probably learned a ton about just making comics better. What were some of the biggest things you've learned as you went down this process?
Um, One of the biggest things I learned is probably that speed is the most important thing. Like, I think something that all artists who want to do comics, like at least at the pace that I do, like if you don't have time to prepare beforehand, um, I think you should really make your art style, like sacrifice some parts of your art style, maybe the shading or maybe just something to do things faster. Like even with backgrounds, I cheat a lot. And I really think that some artists are way too critical of themselves when they do like easy hacks to be faster. But genuinely, I think they should try looking into those things.
And in terms of character development, you said in your head, you have a ton of detail about the characters. One of your first updates, if not, if I remember correctly, it's your very first update, is a character sheet. Um, when you created these characters, what did you draw inspiration from to make them feel so real?
Oh, thank you. You think they feel real. That's really nice. Um, I think mostly, oh, so now I know that many of them are influenced by me, but before I actually went into Myers-Briggs personality types. Literally, I
Mm,
went to that and I looked up any type of personality on there that I think could work with my character, and I went backwards from there, like, and then
mm.
I gave them character traits, and then I gave them, yeah.
Wow, starting from Myers-Briggs. In terms of themes and message, what do you want your audience to feel when they read your webtoon?
There's a few ongoing themes, like mostly, I guess, one of the ongoing themes that aren't really a message is the everything and nothing thing. I put that in everything. Lots of themes there, like how Nil cares about everything, but Past cares about nothing. Like there's a lot of that type of um, parallelism. But the
Mm,
main theme, like the main thing that I really want to communicate to people is like, I guess in terms of relationships, like I have a very different perspective. Like every time I read romance comics or stuff like that, I'm always like, oh, but what about the friend? What about
mm.
that friend that got like left behind? What about so like most of my ideas in Stare Down are me taking ideas from other romance comics, but doing it in a way that I think would suit real life.
Mm.
So
Do you have any do you have any favorite romance comics that come to mind?
oh, this one just comes to my mind first. It's Orange Marmalade.
Mm.
It's very old. But that one like was one of the first webtoon romances I read, and I binged it all at once, and I cried so much reading it. I don't know, that author has something so like they really clench your heart. I think that's something I really wanted to do a stare down to.
Well, I think you're doing a great job of doing it. And in terms of romance, there's a lot of different directions that you could have taken it. Why did you want to create a BL comic?
Oh, okay, because of influence. Like, when I met my fellow manga reading friends, they would also read BL, us girls. I think that's something when you're younger. Yeah, BL manga. People read that a lot, and then we bond over it. So yeah, I think that's why. I feel more resonant with BL manga. I don't know why. Like the genre just makes me feel more, how do I say it? Attached to the characters. I don't know why. I have no clue. Somebody needs to research why.
And well, I mean, it's not just you, like you said, there, I mean, there's people that you've read BL with that, also form an attachment. And if you read your comments, there are people who just really, really resonate and love the characters that you put in there. So what has it been like for you to create a BL comic and then, not just see your friends who like BL, but see people online who enjoy the world that you built as well?
I'm actually really happy about that. Like, because I thought my comic wouldn't be so popular because it doesn't really follow the norm. Like,
Hmm.
a lot of it isn't chasing. I guess I do add the chase, but to be honest, I hated writing the chase. I really just
Hmm.
wanted them to get together. Like, realistically, I like to think that in real life, if somebody chases somebody for too long, it's more respectful, like self-respectful, to give up. And
Hmm.
that's why I had to add those like scenes where, Neil tells Paz that I do want to be with you, but I don't know if I like now is not the time or something, like I'm not ready. Like I had to add those scenes in because otherwise I think Paz should have given up. So I have to make sure that it fits my reality.
Yeah, out of self-respect for Paz, you made sure that he only had to chase for the appropriate amount of time. Uh, Now, in terms of success, you have hit 150K subscribers, which is amazing. And this has been going for a year and a half, which is just an incredible accomplishment in a very quick time. Why do you think, the reception has been so strong for your webtoon?
I'm honestly not sure. I think mostly people can relate with the characters. That's what I always hear, like as well on my Discord. Most of the people there talk about the characters more so than the story
Mm.
because there isn't really a story, it's characters. Yeah, I think like what surprises me the most is the amount of people that relate to different characters. Like these people can say, "Oh, I relate to Finn. Oh, Alex is I kin with Alex." Like there's so many, and I was not expecting that. So yeah, I think that is why.
When you started creating this, were you worried at all about having too many characters? Because, like you said, there's a lot of different people that people can draw from, and they all blend together really well. And you keep the focus on Neil and Pass. But how did you kind of balance that act of like keeping the focus on the main characters while still building up this strong supporting cast?
So for me, I honestly think I have done some of the characters dirty by not showing them more. But the way I like to think of it is in terms of interest. Like I know that people are more interested in the main character. So for the side couple, I would only scatter in chapters like here and there, like leave little
Mm.
breadcrumbs for them. And then now so many people are in love with that side character. So that's how I manage the side couple.
Mm.
As for like the other friends, like I like the way I manage to show them still is by like limiting them to kind of a character trait. Like Hansel is just very cheeky, so I want to add one-liners for him at least when he shows up, where he's being a bit cheeky or like, yeah. So that's how I do it. I just want to add little lines for them at least, like not just make them sit
Mm.
there.
So you talked about your Discord a little bit earlier. It's a very, very strong community. There's a lot of people who have a ton of fun in there. What was the inspiration and the reasoning behind starting your Discord in the first place?
So the way I started my Discord was because one of my patrons recommended it to me because
Mm.
I kind of I it's embarrassing, but because patron, I would be very anxious, like even in my comments, like even on Webtoon, some of my authors' comments, you can see I'm pretty anxious. And one of my patrons was like, they reached out to me and messaged me. I was like, I can see that, that you like, I feel like you really need people to tell you that you're doing well. And so they recommended me to make a Discord because they're in some other authors' Discords. And so I was like, okay, sure. And I spent so long planning this Discord. So long. I like made sure that everything would run well, and I launched it. Yeah. So that was the reason I made it. Yeah, it's just so that I could communicate with my fans.
And what has surprised you about your Discord community? What have you kind of learned as you've watched it grow and watch people interact?
How nice people are. To be honest, like I struggled a lot with being emotional or like vulnerable with people. But ever since my Discord, like I don't know, like the amount of love I've been getting nowadays, like it's very easy for me to also show my feelings as well. Like I learned so much from these people.
Wow, that's so heartwarming. That's amazing. Is this something that you would recommend? Because obviously, you have a lot of Webtoon creators who process their emotions very differently, wish they had a deeper connection with fans, and they may be intimidated by starting a Discord. But do you think this is something that more Webtoon creators should be doing?
Yeah, I think there's no going wrong with making a Discord. Um, but one thing that like you really, really need is the a good mod team. Like
Hmm.
for me, I just ended up being really lucky, and I can't state that enough because I've had one friend who made a Discord which failed really fast because the people were way too crazy on there. And I don't know
Hmm.
how I ended up being so lucky where I just sent a message to the more active Discord members and said, "Hey, do you want to be a mod?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." And so many of them are still mods to this day and helped me a lot.
And what do you think are the keys for making such a good community? You said mods are a good one. Make sure people feel safe. What else has resulted in the community feeling so good?
I think you need something to engage them. Like one of the
Mm.
things I'm so happy I added in my Discord was the leveling system where you level up and you get different colors. And for some reason, like many people are so engaged with that. Like I think the channel where you see what level you are and like see when you level up is probably the most active one. Yeah, that is one thing. Also, to make sure you have different channels. So people like come because they like your comic, but then they don't stay because they want to talk about your comic. They stay because, oh, there's other people here that like to talk about things that I also like music or anime or other comics even, yeah. So I made different channels for them to talk about different topics.
You've also spent time on your Patreon, and obviously a lot of Webtoon artists use Patreon as a way for them to provide an additional level of support so they can continue to pursue their dream of making a comic. What has Patreon been like for you?
So my Patreon has been going on for more than a year, I think, and only now it's really growing. I think mostly at the beginning I had nearly nothing on there, and I felt kind of self-conscious about it, but I didn't have time on top of the comic to add extras and like illustrations also on top of school. But as the years went by, I made a few special comics. I made so many illustrations because once a month, so then there's plenty for people to see. And yeah, I just feel safer to have a backlog of things so that any new patrons that come, they can see everything.
And what do you think your fans and patrons have enjoyed the most from your Patreon? Because a lot of artists that we talk to are trying a bunch of different things. What do you think has stuck the most for you and made it the most successful?
To be honest, I advertise my Patreon as just extra comics. So if somebody wants to see the characters doing something else other than the main story, they can
Mm.
come to my Patreon. Yeah, I really feel like people do want to see the characters doing something else. Um, yeah, a lot of other comic creators do extra comics as well. And I think it works very well for them just because the comic is what people enjoy. Sometimes the illustrations, I think some patrons also really enjoy being able to choose what I would create. So sometimes I'd ask for recommendations for illustrations, or now I'm asking as well for recommendations for the next comic, the extra comics.
I want to get to your future comic in a little bit, but in terms of just monetization and being rewarded for your work. Are there other things that you have tried or things that you may want to try in the near future?
Yeah, so now I started uploading my comic on Tapas as well. But things that I have tried, honestly, like when I was just beginning, I didn't expect to be able to make this my living, but luckily my comic grew a lot and somehow I'm able to sustain myself off of the like two programs on Webtoon, which is the creator rewards and the ad revenue. But yeah, now I'm trying to expand, just to make sure that I feel more safe. So yeah, I also upload it on Tapas.
And for people who may not be familiar, can you explain what the creator reward program is like and how that's been helpful for you?
So the creator reward program on Webtoon is this program that gives you a bonus amount of money for how many views you got. So for I think 40K views, you get 100 US dollars, and then so on. It goes higher as you get more views. But yeah, they're just thresholds.
And do you have any advice for people who want to support themselves from their comic?
So since I mostly was able to sustain myself off of the ads, I think something you should look out for on Webtoon is your view count, like just so that you can reach the minimum to apply for these programs. And then from there, obviously, because now you have ads on your Webtoon, hopefully you get more exposure because Webtoon would love to showcase those ads on your Webtoon. So yeah, I think some creators that I've talked to, like smaller creators, don't look at their don't tactfully go about looking at their view count per month. I think really it can be a game where you think strategy and upload at certain times, or even like upload an extra chapter in that month so that you can reach that view count.
Mm.
Yeah, so it does have a lot of thought in it to be able to enter these programs and like do anything you can to enter them. Like look at the requirements and try your best.
Do you have any other advice or tips as someone is getting their webtoon started of how they can build an audience?
Like one of the I know maybe people already say this, but one of the really important things is to upload 3 chapters right up front, because like it's not only because like the subscribe button comes up after 3 chapters, but it's also because Webtoon has a chance to put you on the fresh picks. Like I think that was the major reason I grew when I first began. I uploaded like
Mm.
I think 2 chapters at first, though. I wish I put 3, but 2 chapters at first, and after like 1 week I ended up on the fresh picks because I don't think they put anything under 1 chapter onto that area. And I really think for new artists, you need to capitalize on the chance to be on that section. There's
Mm.
too many artists that get on that section, new comics that grow so fast in only a few months just because they got on that section.
Were you surprised by yourself being placed on the fresh picks list?
Yeah, and yeah, I was, and also no, because before I made a previous comic that nobody can know about. I made a comic like that spanned like at least 20 episodes, and I think I had like 30K subs on it, but I
Uh-huh.
deleted it. I learned a lot from that comic because on that comic I also ended up on the fresh picks. So I like to think I strategize a lot, but maybe I'm just lucky and I had no hand in this. But yeah, I remember I updated a lot of episodes just so that I could go there. I looked at the fresh picks section so much. Um, I honestly looked at all the new comics that were coming out so much as well and tried to see what other people were doing too. Anyway, I kind of obsession with looking at the website and seeing how to get onto places.
Well, you've done a lot of great work and it's paying off, which is amazing. And what's in store for you? What do you want to do next?
Um, so I'm planning a new comic that I'll work together with Staredown. So I'll have 2 comics running at the same time. The next comic's called Modify. It's like sort of a modern fantasy
Ooh.
based off of the Chinese zodiac, just because I'm in love with Chinese folklore. So I'm gonna add some substance of that on there. That's just a little clip
And when can our maybe it's a little too early to reveal this, but when can our listeners look forward to this dropping?
Probably in September this year. I'm already working on
Wonderful.
it. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think people will be very, very excited
I am too.
to look this up. So we're very excited for that. Are you ready to move on to our rapid fire round?
Yeah.
First question. Which fictional character best describes your personality?
I think Mob from Mob Psycho, because I can explode. Genuinely, yes. I sound so cute, but
I'm not going to ask what percentage you're on. I'm just going to try and gracefully get through the rest of this interview. Second, what 3 webtoons would you take with you on a desert island?
Tower of God, because I need to catch up, and I think it will last me at least a month. The Boxer, because I really, really love that comic. And maybe something like Sweet Home, just because, yeah, I really want to catch up on that. I love horror comics.
Our producer, Jacob, is a huge fan of The Boxer.
Yes.
Next, if you could pick any, which manga or webtoon creator would you want to have dinner with?
I'm gonna go with Starbite just because, yeah, I was influenced so much by their art, and they draw the Batman series, and I'm just so interested in what they do because, yeah, I love their art so much, and I don't know how they ended up doing the Batman series. Yeah, Starbite.
Next, what's your favorite scene that pops up from any webtoon?
It's probably gonna be I'm probably gonna choose Tower of God again. Oh no, but I cannot.
No, you can. There's no limit on how many times you can choose Tower of God.
Why is this question got me in a slump? Maybe we could skip that one. I can't think of anything.
No, it's totally fine. And finally, if you could hang out with one fictional character, who would it be?
Damn, I'd probably. Oh, okay, yeah, Gintoki from Gintama, because I don't know, I have such a heart for him. I think he will teach me life lessons and make me laugh at the same time, just from walking down the street.
Perfect. Well, that's a great one to end on. And listener, please check out Staredown. Please check out Soy. You can find her on Instagram. She has a link tree as well. And Soy, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be on here.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any feedback or want to be featured as our next guest, please write to us at pixelsandpanelspod@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, or give us a 5-star rating. See you all next week.